Hi everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to make this winter wreath card using some Copic markers, and we are not going to use any stamps to create the wreath on this card. It is going to be completely hand drawn, and I'm going to show you some really quick and easy techniques that you can use to make your own winter wreath. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing to do is draw a circle in the center of your cardstock. I'm using a roll of washi tape to help me get the circle. It's about 2 inches wide, so any object in your house will do. A little bottle would work fine, anything that's about 2 inches. And then we're going to draw in our first leaves here, and I'm just going to follow the circle and then have little branches coming off of the circle on either side, like on the inside of the wreath and on the outside. And then when it comes time to shade them in, I'm going to draw, the thing to think of, I think, is like you're making lips. So you're going to start really narrow on the edge, get fat in the middle, and then make a real narrow stroke at the end of the leaf too. So for me, that's kind of what I kept in my mind as I was drawing the leaves here. And we're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to add a layer of leaves with a lighter green shade. And I'm going to do that same technique of having the little like branches just come off the sides on the outside and on the inside, staggering them. And then we're going to make our little lip shaped leaves and just fill in that whole leaf. And we will come back and add some shading later on, but for now we're just trying to fill in the base layer of color for our winter wreath. And one thing that's important is you want to make sure all of your leaves and all of your winter foliage are all pointing in the same direction. So all of my leaves are going to be going counterclockwise. So just make sure as you keep adding your foliage that everything is going towards the same direction. And when you're adding your foliage, you're going to be adding them a little bit on a slant so that they're all following the same circle and the same pattern. So one way that you could go wrong here would be if you have your foliage pointing straight outwards from the circle, like perpendicular. It will look a little bit weird and you'll know right away. So just try to bring your foliage, like curve it as you're going along so that it all follows that circle. Now we're going to add some pine cones in, and I'm adding a base of E42. You're going to make little upside down triangles. You're going to make 1 to start, and then you're going to have 2 underneath it, and then 3, and then 4, and you're just going to keep going until you have like a little pyramid of upside down triangles. And then you're going to put a V at the base of each of those triangles just to give a little bit of shading to our little pine cone. And it's not going to look exactly like a pine cone yet, but it's going to start to resemble one. And we're going to add some detail in later on, and the rest of the foliage is also going to help it look more pine cone like. But for now, we're just trying to preserve a spot on the wreath for our pine cones to sit. Now we're going to add some wispy little branches. So these could be like, I don't know, maybe like little spruce leaves or little tiny bits of pine needles maybe. And this is the only one of 2 types of leaves that we are going to add to our wreath. And what I'm doing is wherever I have a white space, I'm just drawing in a curved line, either going towards the outside of the wreath or the inside. And then I'm just adding little like V's until I get to the end. So you just add like little leaves on either side of your branch, making sure it's all flowing in that same direction that the rest of the wreath is going in. And you're just going to put those wherever you think that there is a little white spot or where the wreath needs to look a little bit fuller. And we're going to add one more color of these same little pieces of winter foliage, and we're going to use a brighter green here. And I'm making them just a tiny bit thinner as well. And I'm just going to add them wherever I think it needs a little bit green color or where there's a little empty space. And I'm not going to be afraid to put them right on top of some of those larger blue-green leaves and light green leaves that we had laid down earlier, because they're either going to end up looking like detail on those leaves, or they're going to look like little pieces of pine or fern or other winter foliage that are just kind of sticking out on top of the wreath. And I'm just going to curve my branches just to follow the rest of the branches, and wherever there's some white space, I'll just kind of curve my pen along that white space and just add little flicks of color. Now I'm adding some BG75, so I'm adding a little bit of shading to those blue-green leaves that we had laid down in the beginning, just to make them look a little bit interesting. And I'm just focusing that shading at the base of the leaf and up one side. And then I'm going to blend it all together with a BG72. And the point here is just to have fun. Like, just do what looks pretty. You know, don't overthink it too much. Just if you think it needs a little bit of color or texture in any area, just go ahead and add it. This is a really meditative project to work on. It comes together really, really quickly. This took maybe about 20 minutes for me from start to finish. Now I'm adding some shading on those light green leaves we laid down in the beginning. Same technique I did for the blue-green leaves, just focusing the shading towards the base of the leaf and then along one side. Now we're going to add some yellow-green. This is kind of like a brownish color, so I'm going to be very, very sparse with this and add like a tiny little branch here and there at different parts of the wreath, just to kind of balance the colors out a little bit. So it's a really thin line, and it's just really, really short branches. And again, it's just meant to balance out the color. And then I'm going to take my G46 and add some more of those little wispy branches. And now this is the fun part. This is the last thing we're going to do. We're just going to go around the entire wreath, and we're just going to add some flicks with this G21 marker. And this is going to make it look like there's some pine at the back of the wreath. It's going to look a little bit like shadowing, and it's just going to help with the overall sense of fullness of the wreath by adding this G21 very, very wispy lines that just kind of stick out a little bit from the rest of the leaves. And you see, like, if you go back 30 seconds and look at what the wreath looked like before we added those little wisps along the edge, you'll see the difference. Now we're going to add some holly berries, and I'm just going to dot them. I'm going to use two different sizes, one small and then one larger. And my base was R24, and then I'm going to add some shading with R39. And I'm going to focus my shading on that area where I just want to make sure that there's a distinction between the berries, so you can see where one berry begins and the other ends. And for the really small berries in the back, I'm just going to add like a little dot on each one. You could even leave them without the dark red there if you like. And then I thought I would lighten up the centers a little bit with some YR15. And then I decided to add a few more little clusters of berries with R24, and then add a little bit more shading with the R39. And the trick for the berries, I just tried to put them in little places where there was room and where I thought the wreath needed some color, and I made sure that they were balanced, just so that there's just enough going all around the wreath. I'm using a wonky stitch die by MFT Stamps just to cut out our card panel. And now we're going to add some white gel pen accents. And this is going to look like little highlights on our berries. So I'm just going to put a little dot on each of the berries. Some little dots on our pine cones too. Maybe it looks like the wreath is a little bit snowy. And I'm not going to put the white gel pen all over the wreath. I'm just going to pick certain areas where I thought it just needed a little bit of brightness or a little bit of interest. And they're just like tiny little white flecks that I'm adding to some of the leaves here and there. And again, this could look like snow. I also like to think of the white gel pen effect as like the magic. So we're adding the magic to our little winter wreath that we just created now. And I'm just going to keep going until it looks good to me. And we're just about there. Just little flecks here and there just to finish off the design. Now I'm using the Happy Holiday sentiment from MFG Stamps. This is part of their Snow Globe card kit this season. You can also buy it on its own if you like. It fits perfectly for this card panel. This is some plaid blue pattern paper that I had on hand. I think it was a free gift with one of the packages that I got from Lawn Fawn, but I thought that the blue matched the colors in the wreath really nicely and decided to use it. And then that's it. So here is our hand-drawn winter wreath card using Copic markers and no stamps. I really hope you give this card a try. It's so much fun. It comes together quickly and you will just be amazed with the results that you get. All right, everyone. I hope you learned a lot in this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again soon in the next video.